Hey, what's up, guys? This is a video from 2018. I never released publicly. This is a lecture on home defense, thinking about strategy and tactics. Strong pointing is the key focus. What are the best practices to create layers of defense and put yourself in a position where you can lay the ambush and drag the threat into deep water versus the whole fantasy of clearing your house and all that other bullshit that will get you killed really quickly. So sit back, relax. This is a little bit of a long one, but it's a great video. Lots of knowledge here. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, throw me some comments or questions down below, and let's get to it.
House, right, is there's normally a central point to which you can control the whole house. There's a point in your house where if you stood there, you could control everything in your house. Now, if you got a second floor or a second story, right, that place is the stairs, the top of the stairs. If everybody sleeps upstairs, make it to the top of the stairs. Hey, everything downstairs, yeah, you could protect it, but the truth is if all the people are safe, right, like you've already won. Make sense? If you got a one floor house, right, in my house, from my door frame of my bedroom, I can control the whole house. You can't get anywhere without me seeing you or you passing by me. I'm not too close to anything and I'm not too far away to do something about it, right? So if this is my house and this is my doorway, if I stood here, you couldn't get in any other room or get past me, right? This is a strong point. We call this strong point, right? There's tons of ways to do a strong point, but the truth is if I woke up in the middle of the night, if I could just make it to here, right, I'm pretty well off, right? Because you're not getting by me, you can't get into my room, right? And you can't get to the other bedrooms without me seeing you going that way. Now, if you're a little bit late to the dance, meaning they've already got in and they've kind of passed your strong point, you need to have a secondary strong point where you can control everything, right? The way my house is laid out, right? And then look, all your houses are going to be a little bit different. So I'm trying to keep this generic because there's a million answers here, right? I could speak for my house. I could speak for Gideon's house, which Gideon's house is kind of the same way as my house. From his bedroom doorway, he can control his whole house, right? But I've never been to your guys' house. So without being there, it's hard to come up with a good plan for you. So I'm just kind of giving you the overview of what I think a good defense plan would be, right? And you know, this goes back to in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, we would take a place, and then sometimes, like we take a place, and then we're going to have to be here a while. It's going to take hours to sort this out. So we need to go ahead and set up a defense. Even though we just took this place, CQB, we're going to strong point it to defend it, right? And this is our defense plan, right? This applies to windows, doors, inside, shooting outside, inside, right? So this kind of applies to everything. So I'm trying to keep it generic for you guys. And I want you to think through, when we do these things, I want you to think through what your house is and where that point would be and what the smart play would be, right? So it starts with strong pointing. If you can control that one spot in your house, you're pretty well off, right? If you got a second story, that's the stairs, right? High ground, right? You own the high ground. It's hard for someone to fight uphill, right? So that would be the stairs. If you have a one floor house, there's going to be a spot like where I'm standing now. If that's the main door and this is all the rooms in the house, right? Well, guess what? I can control someone coming in or going room to room in any room to include the back door, right? So that is my point, is I'm trying to control the space with minimal movement. Now, right, one thing I want to talk about is lights and lighting, right? You'll see a lot of stuff these days about these 1,000 lumen lights and stuff like that. But the truth is, if I was in this room all the way and I turned on my 1,000 lumen light, you would know exactly where I was. There'd be light come out the doorway. If you were a bad guy, you'd see that light and go, oh, I know exactly where this dude is, or whoever. I know where they are, right? So one thing I always do in my house is I do backlighting, right? So my house has got enough light to where at night when I wake up, I don't need any light. So I don't have to flag my position by using any white light. And what I do is I use them little night lights, and they're plugged in certain points in my house that I think you would probably be standing by. So you're either A, going to cover the light up, or B, it gives me enough light to where I can shoot without turning on a flashlight or having a flashlight, right? So I'm a big fan in backlighting. And then we just got these little, they're just little like night lights you plug in the outlet. But you'll see there's like 3 throughout my living room. And what it is at night when I get out of bed, I can wake up. I don't need any, it's not so much light that you can't sleep or anything like that, but at the same time, it's enough light to where anything happened in my house at night, I wouldn't need a flashlight. Make sense?
Yeah.
You read any of the articles where they talk to the home invaders, the criminals, right? What you'll find is the noise will run them off, right? So I would, if I had an alarm and the alarm was tripped, I would go to my strong point to make sure nothing bad happens to the people in the house, first and foremost, right? And I would let the noise run them off because they know, man, that, some house alarms are so loud.
Yeah.
They know, like, if we're going to grab something, it needs to be in the next 30 seconds. So, how much shit are they going to get? And what I would tell you is you protected everyone in your home, but they took a TV. That's a success in my book. Everybody's safe, right? So it's just a matter of what I would call controlled loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, have anything in the downstairs. We can replace that shit. It's not like they're going to take family pictures or heirloom stuff. They're looking for stuff for quick cash. So I would say keep it on, right? But, I got to be honest. The one in my house is so loud. Like you can't hardly think or focus with that thing running. So it's a dual-edged sword, right? If you got used to it, right, you could let it run, hoping they run off sooner, gets rid of them sooner, right? I would probably say keep it on, but you could crank it off. Turning it off might tell them there's someone in the house. They might leave. A lot of these guys will say they don't want to rob houses with people in it, right? Because that gets messy. Not that they wouldn't go to the next level to not go to jail or back to jail, because they would, right? But a lot of them like to make sure the house is empty so they don't have any issues at all with homeowners, right? Because look, if you ask the bad guys, they will tell you it is not worth getting shot to rob a house. So they don't want you to have a gun, right? So I would think, leave it on kind of deal, right? But backlighting, I always do backlighting, and I always, outlets are always on the ground, but it's just enough because look, you wake up in the middle of the night, right? And then this is the myth of the super bright flashlight stuff. 1,000 lumen light. You're a cop. You're walking through a parking lot, right? There's a guy in a parking lot that you need to yell at, or he's doing something shady. As that cop, you could turn on the light. It's enough light to get to where you're going, right? To see what you need to see, but at the same time, right? We're assuming that you are able and used to seeing light, right? Most urban environments are not dark, so you're used to the light. So when you shine a light like that, right? Not a big deal. The myth with all that is, let me put you in a dark room for 6 hours, and then let me crank on the 1,000 lumen light. And what you'll see is your eyes are you're going to be like super bright, right? So the myth of the lighting thing is assuming that your eyes are already used to the light. But what if your eyes are not? Right? This is where you only need a little bit of light. And if you just did some strategic lighting through your house, you wouldn't need a flashlight at all. And you could move around without a light. You're not using a light, you're not flagging your position. Now, I will say using a light, like if someone was in your kitchen and you were across the house and you hit them with a super bright light, I think that would be a great deterrent. Could be a great deterrent if used smartly. However, right, it could be the kind of, dinner bell for a bear, you know what I mean? So you'd have to be smart about that and using that light. I prefer not to use any light. I'll move through my house with no light because the house has just enough light. And if you're standing in certain spots, you're probably going to be backlit, which gives me a better view of you and or your silhouette if I had to shoot. Make sense? So place some lighting smartly, right? And then, should you have a light? Yeah, I have my next to the bed gun is a G19 with my APLC. I brought it out here for this, but obviously we don't need light, but only because I could use it or not use it. It's not very big, it's not very heavy, right? But do I need it? No. Could I use it if I wanted it? Yes. Could I do that with a handheld? Sure, right? But when you do a handheld, it's handheld in one hand, gun in the other, right? When the light's on the gun, it's in one place, right? So a little bit easier. But I can't tell you enough how much to backlight, right? And then look, they're just little lights in your house, man. You know what I mean? Like, and we got little pretty ones. My wife got pretty ones. We put them in the right places. You know what I mean? And it kind of helps everybody because if you wake up at night in the middle of the night in my house, there's enough light to get you where you need to go, right? And I can't talk through that enough, right? So take that into consideration when you go back home to your house, right? And then look, having your house totally dark could be a plan within itself. Maybe you're rocking night vision next to your bed, totally dark with night vision at that time would give you a huge advantage. Make sense? So maybe that's your plan as well. And really with any of this, I don't think there's any wrong answers, and I think there's 1,000 right answers, right? There's just a few definitives like you probably don't want to do that. Yeah. We have my house, my kitchen, my living room, and kind of the entryway are kind of one big room, right? And the kitchen, we always leave a dim light on somewhere in the kitchen, normally in the microwave, right? In the living room, we have 2 of them little lights on opposite sides of the living room, and we have one in the entranceway. So it's just enough light to see enough. It's dark enough to where if someone went from light to dark, it would appear dark. But if someone went from dark to that area, a little bit of light, it seems like it's a ton of light. Make sense? Like when it was getting dark yesterday, the lights in the tent, right, were on, and it wasn't quite dark yet. I'm like, man, them lights suck. You know what I mean? A couple hours after dark, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty good lighting in the tent, right? So it depends on where you stand in your eye adjustment. Are you used to the dark, more of the dark, and more of the light? And I'll tell you, I think it's about a 20 to 30 minute change from light to dark within your own house. Make sense? Yeah. So you think you change quickly, but you don't. If you read criminal reports, like I just read one where they interviewed 85, did you guys see this? 85 home invaders on the internet. I just read through that. It's great perspective. Regular people aren't thinking like criminals. So what you think might be good security or good lighting, they're like, yeah, chump change. I'll walk right by that, right? So anytime motion detectors, right, they walk up close, all the lights kick on of the house, that's just smart, man. You know what I mean? That was a huge deterrent for a lot of those criminals. And then some criminals are like, okay, motion sensor lights, what's next, right? So it all depends on the individual. But if you did kick on all those lights, it would give you a lot of backlight through the windows if you had curtains you could see through, right? If you had heavy curtains over your windows or something like that, it wouldn't provide any light to the inside of the house. I put those in my house years ago because what I did was when I put them all in, right, is when the lights kick on outside, I can see outside. You can see through them. During the day, it's enough to block someone from seeing in, right? However, at night, when all the lights kick on, I can see through it. So if you have something you can see through, all them lights are, again, backlight, huge advantage on your part. right? And I think that lady that shot that guy through the door the other day, right? She seen someone else moving around once the light was on behind him. That's one of the reasons why she said she shot. So, I would say any lighting like that is smart, right? And then look, with having the lighting, right, it gives you the ability to, right, do some backlighting, right? Maybe use it as a warning device. There's a lot of stuff that you could do as you use the lights that the lights will do. Makes sense? And then hopefully, if you had, floodlights, motion detector lights, someone would come up and be like, all the lights would kick on, like, oh crap, like, I'm out, right? And that's really what you're going for. So I would say if you don't have them, I would say, maybe put some up, it depends on how much work you want to put into it, right? There's other solutions as well, but if you have them, like I have them kind of all the way around my house. Makes sense? And then nowadays, I would tell you there's a lot of very smart motion detector lights. Like my front porch has this like octagon like light on the porch. I just bought one of those in motion detector. So it looks exactly like the old one, but it's got the little motion detector on the bottom. So you walk up on the front porch and the light just turns off.
And you get light turns on with all the raccoons, possum.
Well, yeah. So the garage in my backyard, I just put them up and I haven't adjusted the sensors, but like the squirrels trigger the lights and the lights are on in the backyard. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, and then and the other day, like I went out there and I heard this like noise. So I'm like, the noise was actually like some weird bird in the woods. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I think these are squirrels fucking with me. So I haven't, and then I just built a new workshop in the backyard, so I haven't adjusted the setting. They're just kind of whatever they were set at. You know what I mean? But you could dim those settings down. Like my front porch, like a human being has to be stepping foot on my porch to trigger it. Like when I set it up, I adjusted the settings and stuff like that. So, if you're going to use motion sensors, take the time, adjust them correctly. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. Anytime you can use something like that. Lighting, man, I can't tell you how much, like, before anything even happens in your house, you could set up so many things to control the situation. The old days, like, I think this is silly, I was kind of taught I shine the light where I want to go, and I move there, and then I shine the light again, and like, why would I need a light? If I live here, I could control the lighting before we even get to this point. You know what I mean? Then I don't need a light. What's the chances that someone's going to see me walking up on it?
Well, every time you use the light, you're messing with your night vision.
Yeah. And then think about this. You were literally dead asleep, right? How many people have ever been woken up dead asleep? You wake up, you bust out your gun light, and you're like, jeez, I hope no one's there because I am not ready now, right? Like, I've done that a ton. So if you could, this is your home, right? If you had a defensive plan ahead of time, you could set up something better than just running around with a gun light through the living room. Like, seriously, right? And that's why we're here today.
Will that wash out the red dot too? Right.
So, this is another issue is if you have a red dot or if you have, I always tell guys one front tritium dot, right? Just get that tritium dot on something. You're doing pretty well. But yeah, if you're using a light, right, you need to figure out what brightness you would need for that light for your red dot. But if you didn't use anything, kind of any brightness would work, right? So there's a lot of factors there. I would also tell you that a red laser inside your house would work well. I mean, think about this, right? You don't see me, you're in my house, and this red laser comes like out a door frame on this wall, like you, right? Yeah, seriously, right? Like, there's nothing good could come of that. So, a red laser will take something that traditionally has zero night capability and giving you great night capability, right? Like, one of the guns in my house is it's an AR, and there's no sight on it. I just have the little crimson trace, like the really small one that bolts on the rail where you just push the back and it comes on. I have that on the back. So my wife can hold it. It's a true pistol, no buttstock, and it just kind of meant it's a 7-incher. So you push the laser with your thumb, the way you hold it, and you just through the house, just like this, man. You know what I mean? So I would tell you, like, a laser works really well for night capability, and maybe at the same time, if you were like really smart with it, someone's in the entranceway, you're back through the doorway, and the laser kicks on. They can't see where the laser starts, but they see the laser comes out and is on them. Like, it's probably time to go. Right? And a lot of those criminal interviews that I've read, like, no one ever talked about a red laser being on the chest, but I would imagine that would freak anyone out. So laser's always good for going from 0 night capability on a weapon to, it'll make it 100% if you zero it. And then any low light situation, those lasers will work with. The daytime, you can't see that laser, right? But at night, that sucker's money in the house. So, lasers is another thing to kind of consider, right, for your home defensive plan. But I mean, think about this, right? Is you think about, like, in Iraq or Afghanistan, we always had, the house where we lived, whether it was a safe house, it was a base, and then there's an outer ring of security and another ring of security, and there's several rings of security to kind of get to us, even if we live in a safe house in the middle of some city, right? Like, okay, well, someone could park a bomb in front of our house, okay, so let's go buy a bunch of cars and park them always in front of the house and they don't move. So guess what? You'll never park a car there. Why? Because we're never moving the cars we park there. That's a defensive plan. What does it look like? Well, it just looks like cars parked on the street. But the truth is none of them cars are moving. You ain't ever parking in front of our house, right? So as you look at your house of how do I get these rings of security? Maybe the first ring of security is the floodlights outside. Second ring of security is the night lights inside of the house. Third ring of security should be me, right? Like, how many rings do we need, right, to protect ourselves? And this should all be thought out ahead of time. So in the middle of the night, you hear that bump in the night, you go from dead asleep to max level 10 in 10 seconds, right? And you're kind of night blind. It would be nice to know my move has come to here. That's it. That's all I got to do. Just hit what you're aiming at.
Yeah.
Any of that over penetration shit goes away. Right? Like, if you go back to the premise of the placement test,
Yeah.
if you could just bust out at night and do a placement test with any weapon you came out with, would over penetration be an issue then?
Yeah.
Right? The body is an amazing bullet. I would say if you had a suppressor, use it. I think it would be good. I also think, like, the guys that are saying, the big boom, like,
Yeah.
or the other myth is if you hear someone go, right, they're going to run away.
Yeah.
Okay, they may or may not, right? But what I would tell you is I personally think you should be suppressed, right? Because that 7-inch AR pistol throws a flame, hold on, from here to the wall.
Exactly.
So, okay, you shot at a bad guy. Maybe he ran away. Everybody lived. Now the house is on fire. Deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's your fire plan, right? That's a whole different event right there, right? So anyway, I would tell you, if you have it, use it. You know what I mean? If you don't have it, man, don't worry about it. You don't have it, right? Like, I would tell anybody, I would want you at night, in the middle of the night, to fight with whatever you're the most comfortable with. You know what I mean? And calibers like, well, 9mm penetrates more than 5.56. Well, I agree with that, and I've known that for years, and that's why we stopped doing aircraft assaults with submachine guns and went to rifles. Yeah, but the truth is when you got multiple people stacked up like this in seats and you shoot a bad guy, it could go through me, him, the next guy, right? Okay, is that happening inside your house in the middle of the night? My next answer to that would be is, okay, from here, where does everybody sleep? Right? So if this is my room, let's say this is your kid's room, where is their bed? Let's just say this is my strong point, my bedroom door.
Yeah.
The door frame. Okay, let's say this room right here, straight across from me is my kids' rooms, and let's say my kids' beds are somewhere right here.
Yeah.
Right? Well, kids' beds are probably down here.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Let's say kids are this tall. If from here I had to take shots that way, right? Watch. This is advanced stuff that's got to stay here, right? Everybody agree it stays here. Check this out. Watch.
Yeah.
I can take a knee.
Sure. Right? So, be thinking like, hey, if this bullet does go through and my kids' rooms are around there, right? How would I change this equation?
Yeah.
Because if this is the best place to defend from, this is probably where you're going to fight from, or it would be really smart to fight from here. Could you do something else? Sure you could. You know what I mean? However, if you were fighting from here, how do I negate that? I could take a knee and just tell myself, shoot higher shots. Or what if I just stay, again,
Turn them up.
back to the placement test. I don't know if you noticed, but where do I put the target? It's always basically shoulder level for almost all of us, right? Because that would be high enough to where you may not have to worry about kids. And the last thing is, the body is an amazing bullet trap. You hit the body, you ain't got to worry about that bullet going through the wall, in your kid, out your kid. You don't got to worry about any of that. A human being's body will stop a bullet pretty well.
Guys, again, thanks for the support. I appreciate your viewership. If you watched the whole video, thanks so much. Hopefully it was entertaining and you found some great nuggets of information from John. Again, this is from 2018, but he's saying a lot of the same stuff. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.